They called it a quick check-in. No calendar invite, no subject line, just Tracy from HR poking her head into my office with that fake concerned tone. "Hey, could you pop into the conference room for a second? I should have known." The moment I stepped inside and saw Dennis Hale from corporate, already seated Rolex flashing veneers ready, my stomach dropped. I didn't sit. I didn't speak. I just waited. Tracy shut the door, cleared her throat, then slid the paper across the table like it was just another form to sign. Proposed compensation adjustment, 50% salary reduction. Effective immediately, no preamble, no explanation, just numbers. "We've reviewed your role and believe this adjustment brings it in line with current market expectations," Dennis said, like he was offering me a generous relocation package and not gutting my life in one sentence. I didn't blink. I kept my eyes on the bold number at the bottom, $65,000. Half of what I made yesterday, less than I'd made 5 years ago. They knew I was a single mom. They knew about Caleb's medical needs, about the mortgage I'd fought to refinance alone after the divorce. They assumed I had no options, that I'd fold, beg, settle. Instead, I picked up the paper, folded it once, and placed it in my purse. "I'll need 24 hours to consider this," I said evenly. "Please send me a digital copy as well. I'll follow up by 9 a.m. tomorrow." Tracy blinked. Dennis nodded like we'd just closed a deal. I stood, thanked them, and walked out. My legs didn't shake until I reached the elevator. My hands didn't tremble until I gripped the steering wheel in the underground garage. And the tears. They didn't come until I closed the car door and finally exhaled. But inside all that grief, something else was rising. Not fear, not defeat. Resolve. They thought they were cornering me, but I'd learned long ago, when someone slides paper across a table like that, you don't panic. You prepare. And you start making calls. I cried like I hadn't cried in years. Not the dignified kind, the mascara down my neckline, gasping for air kind. My sobs echoed in the stillness of the parking garage, fogging the windshield as I clutched the steering wheel like it might hold me together. 9 years. That's what they'd just tried to erase. I thought of Caleb's voice from a few years back, small and curious in the back seat after another late pickup from school. "Do you work there? Or live there?" I'd laughed at the time, brushed it off. But tonight the question hit like a punch. I started at Apex Tech when it was just an idea with rented desks and cold pizza meetings. Back when changing the world was printed on t-shirts and not just investor decks. I was one of the first 20 hires. No title, no promises, just potential. They hadn't even had a CRM system. I built it. They didn't know which clients to pursue. I did the research, ran the meetings, followed up twice, then again. When the company finally landed its first big account, I was the one on every midnight call, managing panic, smoothing egos, delivering impossible turnarounds. The top 10 accounts that now made up over 65% of the company's recurring revenue, I brought in 8 of them. And I didn't just manage them, I knew them. Birthdays, anniversaries. That one CTO who only trusted me to explain contract language to his board. I'd stayed up through stomach flus, across time zones on holidays, always picking up, always fixing fires before they reached my manager's inbox. Even after the divorce, even when Caleb was wheezing through asthma attacks at night and I was piecing together daycare swaps in the mornings, I did it all, not because I had to, because I believed in what we were building, because it felt like mine too. Now in one meeting, they'd acted like I was overhead, like my only value was what they could cut. I wiped my face and stared at my reflection in the rearview mirror. This wasn't just about money, it was about memory, and what happens when people forget who helped build the thing they now own. It hadn't happened all at once. 6 months ago, the press release had used words like strategic alignment and growth opportunity. Bright white letters over a blue banner, Apex Tech to join forces with Core Vista Solutions. They called it a merger. I knew it was a buyout. I remembered the company-wide Zoom that followed. Harold Whitmore, Apex Tech's founder, smiling stiffly beside Core Vista's regional director. "This is the beginning of an exciting new chapter," he'd said, eyes not quite meeting the camera. The first changes were small. New branding, new email signatures, a sudden obsession with compliance checklists and alignment trackers. Then came the layoffs. First support staff, then mid-level managers, then product leads who'd been there longer than the furniture. My team, once 6 strong, was quietly cut to 2. No explanations, just absence. Desks cleared overnight, Slack profiles deactivated like they never existed. I worked harder. I told myself that if I kept delivering, kept protecting revenue, they'd see my value. But now I saw it differently. They never meant to keep me. They just didn't know how to replace me yet. That night, long after Caleb had gone to bed and the dishwasher hummed in the background, I opened the bottom drawer of my home desk, pulled out the thick folder labeled Employment, Apex Tech. I flipped through onboarding paperwork, benefit elections, performance reviews, then paused. My original contract, still signed by Harold himself. I scanned the clauses, reading slower now, and there it was no non-compete clause. Not a line, not a paragraph, not even a mention. Of course, back then the company was too young, too idealistic. They'd said if we treat people well enough, we won't need to trap them. I smiled grimly. I kept flipping. Near the end, I found the addendum I had helped draft after a team lead had tried to take his clients to another firm. It included a clause: in the event of compensation reduction exceeding 15%, transition obligations may be waived. Maybe. I had written that clause. They never updated my contract. They hadn't just forgotten who built their client base. They'd forgotten I helped build their policies too. It was nearly 10 p.m. when the message came in. I had just finished loading the dishwasher and was mentally preparing to stare at the ceiling until sunrise. My phone buzzed on the counter. Selena Park, someone I hadn't spoken to in months. Hey, just saw your name trending internally. Call me if you're ready. We've been waiting for you to quit. I stared at the screen. Selena had left Apex Tech almost a year ago, right after the acquisition. Everyone said she jumped too soon, that she was impulsive. But Selena landed at Brightcore Systems, Apex Tech's top competitor, and by the look of her LinkedIn updates, she'd been thriving. I called. Ellie, Selena said, using the nickname only old coworkers used, please tell me it's true. If you mean that they tried to cut my salary in half, then yeah. It's true. You leaving, I haven't said yes or no yet. You should. We've been hoping you'd get fed up. I raised an eyebrow. That a compliment or a job offer, both, Selena replied. My boss, Jordan Ellison, has asked about you more than once. We need someone who knows Apex Tech's client culture. Someone who can handle transition accounts. Someone with your kind of loyalty, but for the right company. I'd need to talk in person. I'll set it up. He'll meet you anywhere, tomorrow morning. Before I give Apex my answer, Selena didn't hesitate. Westlake Cafe. 7:30 a.m. I'll text you the table number. The cafe was quiet the next morning. Exposed brick walls, real mugs, no laptops allowed at the tables. I arrived 10 minutes early in the blazer I usually save for closing deals. Jordan Ellison was already seated, casual but confident, sleeves rolled up, no entourage. Ms. Thornton, he said, standing. I've heard your name more times than I can count, and not just from Selena. I sat down slowly. That could be good or very bad. He smiled. We've tried to win over half the accounts you manage. Failed every time. I figured either you were a magician or a reason. I folded my hands. Sometimes I'm both. Jordan leaned in. Then let's talk, because Brightcore doesn't let magicians go unnoticed. The coffee was barely touched when Jordan slid the folder across the table. We don't waste people here, he said. Especially not ones who can do what you do. I opened it slowly, scanning the page. Then again. $170,000 base salary, 25% annual performance bonus. Full health coverage including Tier 1 prescription access. Caleb's inhalers and specialist visits would be fully covered. I blinked twice. It was more than a number. It was relief. It was sleep. It was breathing room. We're also offering a $20,000 signing bonus if you can start within 2 weeks, Jordan added. And you'd have full autonomy to structure your own team. I didn't speak right away. I glanced through the rest of the offer: 401k match, flex hours, optional hybrid work. The kind of benefits Apex Tech used to brag about. Before they became cost centers, I closed the folder. Can I see the office before I say yes? Absolutely, Jordan said. Now, if you're free. We walked the 6 blocks together. Brightcore's building had floor-to-ceiling windows, open workspaces that didn't feel performative, and conference rooms named after cities instead of code names. People smiled, not the tight-lipped ones I'd seen at Apex lately, but real ones. Relaxed ones. Selena waved as we passed. Told you, she mouthed. I paused in front of a wall-sized whiteboard with project timelines color-coded in crisp detail. A sticky note in the corner read, "Progress is personal." Jordan stopped beside me. "You don't owe anyone an explanation, Maya. But if you're wondering if this is real, it is." I met his eyes. "I've worked 9 years under the promise that loyalty would be rewarded," I said. "Last night they tried to cut me in half. Then let's help you rebuild at full strength." I ran my hand along the folder once more. I didn't need more time. I needed this clarity, respect, and space to breathe. "I'll have an answer by tonight," I said. "But it's looking like a yes." Jordan extended his hand. "We'd be lucky to have you." I shook it, then looked out the window. The city stretched wide in every direction, and for the first time in a long time, it looked like it belonged to me again. I walked into the HR conference room with the same folder in my hand, this one full of truths, not threats. Dennis Hale was already there, seated like a king behind a borrowed table. Tracy from HR sat beside him, tight-lipped and overly polite, a manila folder with my name half tucked under her arm. Maya, Dennis said without standing. "Have you had time to review the offer?" I took the seat across from them, set my bag down gently, and looked him in the eye. "I have," Tracy offered a neutral smile. "We understand this is a difficult transition, and we're hoping to move forward with mutual cooperation." I didn't flinch. "I'm declining the offer." Dennis blinked but recovered quickly. "I'm not sure you've thought this through. A 50% reduction is unfortunate, but not uncommon in this market. If you walk now, you'll be forfeiting transition support, and actually," I interrupted calmly, "according to my original contract, which was never updated post-acquisition, my notice period equals severance, period." 1 week. Dennis's jaw twitched. "That clause is outdated." "Then you should have updated it," I replied. "And since the compensation reduction exceeds 15%, transition requirements are waived." Clause 9B. I wrote it. Tracy's eyes darted down to the folder. I could tell she hadn't read that far. "I start at Brightcore on Monday," I added, voice even. "No non-compete. No delay." Silence settled over the table like a dropped curtain. Dennis straightened. "You're making a mistake." I stood. "You already did." He leaned back, arms folded. "If we find you've taken client data," "I haven't," I cut in. "But the relationships I built over 9 years. Those come with me. Trust isn't proprietary." I turned to leave, then paused at the door. "Oh, and you might want to update your transition plan. Ava and Jonah gave notice this morning." Tracy gasped softly. Dennis didn't move. I walked out with my head high, past familiar desks, and old memories past the break room, where I used to stay late to catch up, past the framed employee of the quarter photo that still hung on the wall. I stepped into the elevator, and for the first time in 9 years, the doors didn't close behind me with pressure. They opened. By the time I pulled into my driveway that afternoon, the ripple had already begun. 3 emails waited in my inbox, none from Brightcore, all from clients. "Heard about your transition. When can we chat? Just saw the news. Is this true? Maya, please tell me who's taking over our account." I hadn't told a soul outside my team. But word moves fast inside a company that's already cracking. I texted Ava and Jonah. "Everything okay?" Ava responded within seconds. "We're in. Sent our notices. Following your lead." I stared at the message, a strange swell rising in my chest. It wasn't victory. It was something heavier, like proof that loyalty didn't die with the letterhead. I walked inside, greeted Caleb with a kiss on the head, made dinner without checking Slack once, and put my phone face down on the counter. But it still rang. Unknown number, Chicago area code. I hesitated, then picked up. "Maya, it's Harold Whitmore." The name hit like static. Harold, the founder. The man who had shaken my hand 9 years ago and said, "Let's build something real." The man who disappeared the minute Core Vista bought us out. "I understand there's been some confusion," he said, voice measured. "I don't think it's confusing at all," I replied. "I heard about what Dennis did, the pay cut, the way it was handled. That wasn't approved by me, but it happened." "On your watch." Silence. I'd like to talk, Harold said eventually. See if there's a way to bring you back. Or at least clarify what happened. I exhaled slowly, watching Caleb on the couch. His socks mismatched his face, calm for once. I appreciate the call, I said. But I'm not interested in explanations. I already gave mine through my work, my loyalty, my time. Maya. No hard feelings, Harold. But you're only calling now because it's expensive not to. I hung up gently without anger. My phone buzzed again this time. A message from Selena Jordan says, "Welcome aboard. You've already made waves." I smiled, set the phone down, and turned back to my son. The house was quiet, the lights warm, and I didn't owe anyone a thing. 3 days into my new role at Brightcore, I finally made the call I'd been dreading but knew was necessary. I stared at the number for a few seconds, then tapped dial. Daphne Reyes came the crisp answer on the other end. CTO of Luminar Systems, Apex Tech's largest and most demanding client. "Hi, Daphne, it's Maya Thornton." A beat. "Then I was wondering when you'd call." My throat tightened. I wanted to reach out personally. "I'm no longer with Apex Tech." Silence. Then sharply, "When were you planning to tell us I wasn't allowed to initiate contact while there?" "But I wanted you to hear it from me." Another pause. "We have a system implementation in 2 weeks," Daphne said. "We requested you in the original agreement. Apex never mentioned you were leaving." "I know," I said quietly. "They didn't tell my team either. I wanted to honor the relationship even if the contract no longer applied." Daphne's tone shifted. Cooler now. "Maya, with all due respect, we didn't sign on for Apex Tech. We signed on for you. The way you handled that cybersecurity rollout last year, the way you walked my board through every risk factor, that's not something we forget. I appreciate that more than you know." "Where are you now, Brightcore Systems?" Daphne said. "They've been on our radar. I didn't press. I didn't offer meetings or proposals. I knew better. This wasn't about sales. It was about trust. I just wanted you to know," I said, "that I'm grateful for everything we built. No matter what comes next." 2 weeks later, Luminar formally notified Apex Tech of their intention to exit the contract early, citing transition instability. 3 days after that, 2 more clients followed. No threats, no promises, just quiet moves. At Brightcore, I sat across from Selena during a team meeting. "We're not poaching," I reminded everyone. "We're listening." Selena nodded. "That's what makes the difference." I closed my laptop and exhaled. In the end, the relationships I built hadn't been about logos or contracts or email domains. They were about people. And people, when treated with care, remember. The email came with a subject line that screamed old corporate fear. Notice of intended legal review. Immediate attention required. Harold hadn't wasted time. I read it twice. The language was bloated phrases like potential violations of client confidentiality and competitive infringement. The kind of email meant to rattle you before you finished your coffee. I didn't flinch. Instead, I drafted one line and forwarded it directly to Brightcore's legal counsel, Clause 9B. Original contract attached. Happy to discuss. Later that day, my phone rang. "Maya, it's Harold. I'd prefer we keep this civil." "So would I said. "But you're threatening litigation over decisions you allowed. You're actively soliciting our clients." "No," I replied coolly. "I'm returning phone calls. You should try it sometime." Silence. Check the clause I added. The one I helped write, the one you never updated. By the end of the week, Apex Tech issued an internal review announcement. Tracy from HR was suddenly pursuing other opportunities. Dennis Hale disappeared from the directory with no farewell email. The company called it a restructuring. I knew it for what it was: cleanup. At Brightcore, I was called into Jordan's office. "You've weathered this with professionalism and grace," he said, holding up a new letter. "We'd like you to step into a broader role, VP of Client Trust. Build the long game." I smiled as I signed it. They tried to shut me down. Instead, I leveled up. 3 months later, I stood on the sidelines of a Saturday morning soccer field, clipboard in one hand, coffee in the other, shouting encouragements to a pack of 10-year-olds chasing a ball like it held the secrets of the universe. Caleb waved from midfield. "Coach, Mom, watch this," I grinned. Always. After practice, we stopped for pancakes. No rushed bites between Slack pings. No laptop open at the table. Just syrup, sunshine, and my son laughing so hard he snorted orange juice. I hadn't missed a dinner in weeks. I hadn't cried from stress in months. And for the first time in my adult life, I wasn't surviving. I was thriving. My new title, Vice President of Client Trust, meant something. I wasn't just managing relationships. I was shaping them, protecting them, rebuilding the kind of culture that once made me believe in companies like Apex Tech. At a tech leadership conference in Chicago, I spotted Harold Whitmore across the room. He noticed me too, walked over slowly, like a man unsure of his welcome. "Maya," he said, "you look good." "I am." "We didn't realize what we had," he said quietly, like it might pass as an apology. I smiled, not cruel, just tired. That was the problem. He nodded, unsure of what else to say. Later, as I stepped outside into the cold, I pulled my coat tighter and looked up at the skyline. The same city, a different life. I hadn't taken revenge. I hadn't needed to. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying what tried to break you. It's becoming someone they can never touch again.